What's your status?
Why did you hang up on me?
Oh, I was trying to open the door. So not.
Hi, everybody. How's it going?
All righty.
Oh, good. I'm excited to start. My name is Courtney, and I'll be doing a workshop today on the PPR. So I have a few favors to ask of you guys to make the session run really smoothly. I'll definitely leave time at the end for any questions you have. So if you would just save your questions for the end, and if you're not like participating, if you keep your mic muted so we don't hear background noise, that'll make it better for everybody. That would be great. But I will be asking questions throughout. So if you could type your answers in the chat box, that would be great. So before we get started on the actual content, I remember being super excited about starting my teaching career. Who's already teaching or who's excited about teaching? You guys really excited?
Yes, very exciting.
Oh, good. I see some applause going out there. Yes, it's an exciting time to make a difference, and finally teachers are getting paid a little bit more than they used to. So that's good news too. But I remember being super nervous about my tests. Who else is nervous about these exams? Yes, it is scary. Because not everybody passes the first time, right? But that's why it's important to pick study material that's aligned to the domains and competencies, right? And those domains and competencies are in the free Texas NES INC manual, which we'll look at briefly today. So let me share my screen. I have to let people into the chat room at the same time, so I have to multitask a little bit. So I remember, like I said, being super excited. I want to tell you why I can actually help people pass the test. So I'm kind of a serial test taker. You can see I've taken 14 of these tests and I've passed them all on my first try, and I tutor a lot of people, helped a lot of people pass their tests, right? So you can see when I took the PPR, I got a 280, and I did take it a while back, but the test has not changed. So that's the good news. And then I thought I'd show you, I have some testimonials from one lady in particular that had taken the PPR already 3 times and paid a lot of different tutors, bought different material, and it didn't work for her. And then we worked together and she passed. So I have a lot of 5-star reviews you can check out on my Facebook page, right? For various exams, including the PPR, right? So that's a little bit about me. And then, so the PPR, if you just go to Google and type in Texas NES INC manual, right? This is where you will get to the free preparation manuals, right? Which is also the website where you go to register for your test and to log on to see your scores. So it's a very useful place to be, right? So then you want to scroll down and click on Pedagogy and Professional Responsibilities, PPR EC-12, right? And then click on Go. And then we can look at the overview and exam framework and see, what does this test actually entail? So it's a 5-hour long test, but you probably won't need 5 hours because there's only 100 questions. So has anybody here taken the core subjects test?
Yes.
Yes, and that one's well over 200 questions with the same amount of time, right? So I think you'll find this one's a lot more manageable in that regard. But that being said, there's still plenty of people that don't pass this the first time, right? That's why I have a job. So even though it might be it's less time constrained, the questions can be tricky, right? So we'll talk about some of those today. So you get 5 hours, 100 questions. You can read all about the standards here. But the main thing that I like to focus on is the domains and competencies, because that's what's going to help you learn the content and answer the questions. So domain 1 is designing instruction and assessment to promote student learning. You can see that's 34% of the test, right? Domain 2 is creating a positive, productive classroom environment, 13%. Implementing effective, responsive instruction and assessment, 33%. And fulfilling professional roles and responsibilities, 20%. So for this one, you want to make sure you read over the teacher code of ethics, right? You can just Google that and it'll come up. Or if you get a good study guide, it will mention some of that information for you, right? So tonight I thought we would do some of the first competencies in domain 1, but it has several competencies. So we probably won't have time to cover all of the competencies in domain 1, but we'll get a good start. And then we'll do some sample questions and see if you guys are getting them right. So I encourage you to participate so we can see if we're able to apply what we learned today, right? So let's see. So competence domain 1 is what we're talking about. And we have competency 1. The teacher knows the processes of human development and uses this knowledge to plan instruction and ongoing assessment that motivates students and takes into account their developmental needs and characteristics. This is more or less what they tell you on the preparation manual, that Texas NES INC manual, right? But as you can tell, this is pretty vague, right? And we don't really know What processes of human development are they talking about? How do we plan this instruction and assessment that they're talking about? So that's where you need a study guide that's going to go into more detail for you. So next we have, for human development, there's 4 parts to it, and they're all related to each other. They're not in isolation. We have the cognitive development, that's our thinking, emotional, of course, that's feelings, social, interacting with people, and physical, our bodies, right? So if any one area is suffering, it can definitely affect the other areas. So that we have to treat students as a whole, right? And not isolate things from each other. That's why, in my opinion, it's not a good idea to ever take away recess from a student, right? Because they need to get their wiggles out and get their exercise, even if they misbehaved that day. Next, we have Piaget's stages of cognitive development. Have you seen this on a different test that you've taken? I bet you have, right? Yeah. So that's good news because maybe you'll remember it. I bet you guys have seen it. Yes. So you could read whole books on Piaget's stages of cognitive development, but what I focus on is teaching you what you need to know and nothing extra, right? To save you time and effort. And then I encourage you to do your own research on the things that will help you be a better teacher. But my goal is to help you pass the test, right? So we have stage 1, the sensory motor stage, birth to 2 years old. They learn from movement and from their senses. So have you ever noticed how babies put everything in their mouth, right? That's not to drive us crazy. It's because that's how they learn, right? They only understand things from their own perspective. They start to understand object permanence, or the fact that even if something is hidden, it still exists. That's why babies like peekaboo so much, right? Because they're learning object permanence. Next, we have stage 2. And if you guys would mute your mics, please, that would be great, because I'm hearing some background noise. Thank you. Next, we have stage 3, the concrete operation stage. Usually, oh wait, I skipped one, sorry, got sidetracked there. Stage 2 is the pre-operation stage. Usually they're 2 to 7 years old. So if you teach kindergarten or 1st grade, your students will be in this stage of development, right? Their vocabulary is expanding. They're still very egocentric. That means they only understand things from their point of view. They're slowly decentering. That means they're starting to understand that not everything's about them, right? They believe in animism. That means they think everything's alive, right? Everything has the traits of living beings. And they start to understand symbolism, that something can be a symbol of something else. They're also in a state of moral realism, meaning they think everyone has the same values, the same moral compass as them. Next, we have concrete operation stage. This is stage 3, from 7 to 11 years old. So if we look at the word concrete, that's going to give us a clue. They need a concrete object to help them think about things, right? That's why manipulatives are so important. They can't think abstractly yet, and we can't expect them to. They're not egocentric anymore, not as much at least. They're not believing in animism, but like I said, they still need that concrete object in front of them. They slowly start to understand conservation. I always look for ways to help you remember things. So if we notice the C-O-N, in concrete, and the C-O-N in conservation, that will help you remember that they go together. So conservation is the idea that even though something might look different, it can really be the same. So for example, a tall skinny glass of 8 ounces of water is the same amount as a short wide glass of 8 ounces of water. But if you ask little kids which one has more water, they'll usually pick the tall one, right? They think it has more. So once they start to understand the conservation, that's usually when they're in this concrete operation stage. And you do need to know what goes with each stage, like object permanence with stage 1, symbolism and animism in stage 2, conservation in stage 3, right? And next we have stage 4, the last stage, the formal operation stage. Usually they're 11 to 12 years old, up to 16 years old and beyond. Now they can think abstractly. They don't need a physical object anymore like they did in concrete operations. They can engage in hypothetic deductive reasoning or developing a theory with all the possible factors that could affect the outcome and think of a hypothesis. So that's hypothetic deductive reasoning. So that's Piaget's stages of cognitive development. I do think you'll see questions about that on lots of different Texas exams. Next, we have Erickson's stages of psychological development. This one I haven't seen on other tests. So this is probably going to be new information to you unless you've taken some psychology classes or something. So Erickson says the first stage is initiative versus guilt, right? Preschoolers and elementary schools students must learn to survive without the total support of their parents. When they can do this, they have developed a sense of initiative. So if you think about somebody taking initiative, they're taking responsibility, right? At first, they move away from complete attachment to parents and they start to feel a little guilty about that, right? But they start to develop that initiative we were talking about. That's why it's called the initiative versus guilt stage. So it's important to let students make some decisions and make their own accomplishments, right? Even when they're little. And then we have industry versus inferiority. So after they develop initiative, hopefully they developed initiative, then they start learning the cognitive and social skills to become successful in the classroom. So reading, writing, and math skills. And this means they have achieved a sense of industry if they're able to succeed at social and cognitive skills. If they don't develop that sense of industry, they will feel a sense of inferiority. So this stage is called industry versus inferiority. You'll see this in students that aren't doing well in school. They might put on a front, but they actually feel inferior, right? Next, you have identity achievement. When students begin middle school, they start to develop identity. They wonder, who am I? And discover their goals. They're in a state of extreme change. That's identity. And then the last stage is intimacy and isolation. In high school, they're entering the stage of intimacy and isolation. They begin to start thinking about long-term friendships and relationships. Erickson believes that many psychosocial problems in this stage are due to people not fully developing a sense of identity, which would have been in middle school, right? So if they don't solidify their identity, then they're going to have problems with intimacy and maybe experience isolation. Next, we have social development. So you have to know what's the most important influence in students' lives according to their age, right? In the early years, early elementary school, family is the main influence in their lives, and they learn through play, right? And lots of games and social development. So that's in the early years. In adolescence, peers become the main influence. Students may start to feel rebellious and feel peer pressure to fit in. They may experiment with drugs or alcohol. Peer pressure can also be positive, right? If their friends are making good grades or doing healthy activities. Here's some warning signs of substance abuse.
It is shocking. I mean, it's just absolutely shocking.
So being rebellious, having friends that use drugs, thinking drugs are cool, taking risks, negative relationships with adults. Those are all warning signs of substance abuse. All right, social development, play development. Preschoolers will often engage in solitary play or parallel play, where they play next to a peer but not with him or her. In kindergarten and beyond, they begin to engage in cooperative play or playing together, right? So you need to plan centers, games, and activities that are appropriate for the age and stage of your students. So we wouldn't expect pre-K students to actually play together, right? We need to set up activities where they can play next to each other. And it's great if they start that, but we don't expect it. Physical development. At preschool, focus on activities to help them develop fine and gross motor skills. Let them string Cheerios to work on their pencil grip, play games outside and inside to work on gross motor skills. In junior high or middle school, they experience puberty where they're going through sexual development and hormonal changes, right? It's difficult for them to manage their emotions, and they have self-image struggles a lot of times. Girls usually mature earlier than boys, and they might be embarrassed about that. In high school, they continue to grow and develop. And then teachers should keep in mind that students need proper nutrition and sleep right, and try to get them to do that, even though that can be a struggle. So that's physical development. Interrelatedness, I mentioned this earlier, that they're all related to each other, right? So the cognitive, the thinking, is related to social, emotional, and physical development. So if they're not sleeping or eating right, it's going to affect their thinking, right? And then if they're in a bad mood because they didn't eat or they didn't sleep, it's going to affect their social and emotional life too. It all goes together. All right, planning instruction. When planning instruction, keep these things in mind. The student's stage of cognitive development, the student's learning styles, students' emotional and physical needs. Do they need help learning to interact? Did they eat breakfast? The teacher can plan games and activities to promote social development. It can help the student get breakfast at school if possible. Student engagement, make it fun and student-centered. All right, developmental differences. So we know every student is unique and will develop on his or her own timetable, right? So we don't want to be comparing a lot, but we have to look for warning signs of developmental delays or any learning difficulties so we can get intervention and support, right? So if they're struggling with a lot of grade level concepts or are very socially awkward or withdrawn, they might need extra help, right? So you have to know what warrants an evaluation and what is considered normal. These are risk factors for social and emotional development: homelessness, divorce, substance abuse, neglect, abuse, gang involvement. All right, eating disorders. So there's different types of eating disorders. They're obsessed with their body image, right? They might engage in binge eating and purging or taking laxatives. That's if they have bulimia. If they eat very little or not at all, then they're anorexic, right? Or they have anorexia. If they engage in extreme exercise, that can also be a form of an eating disorder. And if they're using diet pills, right? So we need to teach life skills. Those would include goal setting, decision-making, organization, self-direction, and work skills. So you might see multiple choice questions where it asks you something along the lines of, what type of life skills would a teacher need to teach? Select all that apply. They ask those select all that apply questions, and then you would have to select from these. So notice that like household stuff is not mentioned, right? But goal setting, decision-making, organization, self-direction, work skills. All right, so we did that pretty quickly. So I thought we would do competency 2 also, and then we'll do some sample questions. So the teacher knows the processes of human development and uses this knowledge to plan instruction and ongoing assessment that motivates students and takes into account their developmental needs and characteristics. And I also want to tell you guys, if you stay till the end, I'll give you some sample questions, right? I'll share a document with you with some sample questions. So please remind me at the end if I forget, because sometimes I get sidetracked with questions and forget to give you your free questions. So we know the processes of human development and use that to plan instruction and ongoing assessment, right? So personal and social characteristics. Each student comes from a unique background, right? We need to know that. So for ethnicity, read books and texts about people from all different ethnic backgrounds. We want to be inclusive. Gender, include texts and videos about current and historical male and female figures. Language background, take into account that some students may need extra language support. Learn to pronounce their names correctly, right? That meets their affective needs. That's spelled with an A if we're learning to pronounce their names correctly. Create a classroom that promotes diversity. So we want to read books by authors of all different backgrounds. Put up posters of historical figures of different ethnicities and both genders. Talk about different cultures, holidays, and traditions. Create an atmosphere that is accepting. Right? Helping students understand themselves. Plan activities to help students be aware of their uniqueness and accept it. Celebrate differences, but also talk about what everyone has in common. Talk about cultural differences and focus on the richness of diversity. And you'll find that the TEKs have changed throughout the years, and they do include a lot of people from different backgrounds now. So that's good news. Learn more as a professional. Learn more about your students' cultures, beliefs, and traditions. Read books, watch documentaries, and attend professional development training to learn more about taking into account cultural differences and creating a classroom that is accepting of everyone. So if you work at a public school district, like a lot of you guys do or will, you will be required to do workshops, CPE hours every year, right? And you'll learn some of these things in these classes. Meet the needs of English language learners. If you have even one ELL in your classroom, you have to follow the ELPS. You can Google that and find the ELPS, English Language Proficiency Standards. Provide scaffolding to English language learners. Scaffolding is extra support to help them reach the next level of language proficiency and includes gestures, body language, facial expressions, visual aids, and rephrasing. So that's very important scaffolding when you're working with language learners. All right, so according to the ELPS, there's different levels, right? And this is for listening. They have it for listening, reading, writing, speaking. At the beginning level, they struggle to understand simple conversations. They struggle to identify individual words unless they have been modified for ELLs. They may remain silent and not ask for clarification. Right? At the intermediate level, they understand simple, high-frequency English in routine settings. They understand simple or routine directions in short conversations on simple topics. They often identify keywords and phrases to understand basic instructional interactions. They can ask for clarification, like slow down or repeat. That's intermediate. Next, we have advanced. This is still for listening. They understand longer directions in conversations on familiar and sometimes unfamiliar topics, but they might need visual aids. They understand most main ideas and main points, right? They sometimes ask for clarification, slow down or repeat. Anytime they're at the advanced high level, basically they're able to do what their native speaking peers can do with maybe a little bit of language support. They understand longer directions in conversations on familiar and sometimes unfamiliar topics, right? So they're like their native English speaking peers. They might rarely request for clarification. All right, next we have the ELPS for speaking. At the beginning level, they have little or no ability to speak English in social and academic settings. They speak in single words or short phrases. They use a limited bank of high frequency words for basic communication. They lack the English grammar needed to communicate, right? They use pronunciation that inhibits communication. So that's beginning. Next, we have intermediate. They use simple original messages using sentences, engage in simple conversations, may hesitate a lot. Some of you guys here have taken the LOTE, right? I recognize you. And I want to draw your attention to the fact that what does this remind you of for the LOTE? Do you guys know what I'm talking about? It should remind you of certain levels.
These are the actual levels.
The actual levels, that's right. This is like the novice, right? And this is intermediate. They can do sentences. So this should help you if you've taken the LOTE. If you haven't taken the LOTE, don't worry, that's not important, but I just want to connect that knowledge for people that did. So they speak simply using basic vocabulary. They have an emerging awareness of English grammar and use simple sentences mostly in the present tense, right? They use pronunciation that people that are accustomed to ELLs can understand. So they have to be used to English language learners to understand them. Next, we get to advanced. They use grade appropriate English. This is important. Once they get to advanced, that's when they do grade appropriate things, right? With support. So grade appropriate. They discuss familiar academic topics. They understand basic grammar in past, present, and future tenses. Notice they're getting to where they can use all tenses. They make errors that sometimes affect communication, may mispronounce some words but are understood by people, even those not accustomed to ELLs. And then we have advanced high. Basically, they can do what their native English speaking peers can do. They use grade appropriate English with minimal support, right? Make few mistakes. They may mispronounce some words, but they're understood by everybody. Next, we have the reading. Notice for reading, they break it down first by K, their first grade, and then 2nd through 12th grade, because reading is very different in the early grades versus the later grades, right? So at the beginning level, they have little or no ability to build foundational reading skills in English. They read in short chunks. They read only high frequency, concrete practiced words. They need ample visual supports. They begin to understand environmental print. They have difficulty decoding words in English. Then we get to intermediate level. They have limited comprehension of grade level texts. They do best with stories that are concrete and predictable. They recognize and understand environmental print in English like signs and labeled items. They have difficulty decoding grade level English words. Now at the advanced level, they understand most main points and supporting ideas, but may need some visual support. They recognize some English vocabulary words in isolated print, can decode grade level English words with second language support. And then at the advanced high level, they can do everything grade level with minimal support. So they're basically like their native speaking peers. Next, we have the reading, the ELPS for 2nd through 12th grade. So these will be a little bit different. At the beginning level, there's still little or no ability to read in English, can read some environmental print, high frequency words. They read slowly, word by word, have a limited sense of English structures, are highly dependent on visuals. The intermediate level, they read and understand everyday English, literal meanings, routine academic language, and commonly used abstract language. They read slowly and in short phrases. They're starting to understand the structure of language. They understand simple sentences with visual support and can read linguistically accommodative text made for language learners, right? Next, we have the advanced. Remember, at advanced, that's when they can do grade level text with support. They read longer phrases and simple sentences at grade level speed. They're getting familiar with the language structures. They can apply higher order comprehension skills. And then in advanced high, they can do things like their native English speaking peers, right? So that's the ELPS for reading. Now we have writing. They also break down writing for K through first grade and then for second through 12th grade. So at the beginning, they have little or no ability to write in English. They would basically just be able to copy things, right? Little or no awareness of conventions. At the intermediate level, they write briefly and simply on familiar and concrete topics, use simple sentences and make mistakes related to their home language. At the advanced level, they use grade level English for writing in an emergent way, or it can be at least, can write on grade level with second language support. They may make mistakes related to their first language. And then advanced high, they use grade level English with writing with minimal second language support. And then for second through 12th grade writing, at the beginning, limited or no ability to write in English, limited, little or no awareness of conventions. They can make lists, write high frequency words, use the present tense. At the intermediate level, they use simple sentences and make mistakes related to L1, that's language 1. They use loosely connected ideas, present tense, repetition of ideas, and only people used to ELLs would understand their writing. At the advanced level, again, that's when they can do things on grade level with second language support, even on abstract ideas. They use complex grammar. They might make some mistakes related to L1. And then advanced high, use grade level English writing with minimal second language support, occasional mistakes related to second language acquisition. All right, if you have special needs students, which you probably will, they're going to have an IEP, right? Or if they have 504, you've got to follow their plan. That's very important. All right, so that was competency 1 and 2. And then next we'll do some sample questions that I'd ask for you guys to please participate to make it a little bit more fun. So this will be more fun than the part where I'm just talking. So in my course, which I'll share with you guys a little bit later, the link, it has all of the competencies. So we only did 2 competencies, but you can see there's 13, right? So you want to prepare for all 13 to have a good chance of passing the PPR. You can't really pass if you just prepare for a couple of competencies. So I'm going to share my screen. I'll make this a little bit bigger. And then if you guys would just put your answer in the chat box, that would be great. We have a couple of answers. I'll at least let a few more people answer. You might still be thinking. C, good job. You guys are good. Okay, so some things you want to think about when you're answering these questions, because I also want to talk about tips and strategies, right? One thing is all of the Texas exams are like this, but the PPR is especially like this. You always want to think perfect world, right? So always assume that things are how they're supposed to be. You have enough resources, enough time, enough money. You have the support of the parents, of the administration. The kids, for the most part, want to be there and learn. All the things that don't always happen, you have to assume everything's perfect. So it's all perfect world. Also, sometimes our real world experience can hurt us because that's not how it is in the real world, right? So we have to take into account it's always perfect world. Also, anytime there's situational questions where they're asking the best way to handle something, I just sent out an email about this, so you might have already heard this, but you always want to pick the answer that's most on topic, right? That sounds obvious, but a lot of people don't do that. Then once you narrow it down, there's usually 2 that are on topic. Pick the one that's most thorough. If they're still on topic and thorough, then you pick the one that's most learner-centered. But a lot of people pick the learner-centered one first, but it can't be right if it's off topic. And they try to do that on purpose to trick you, right? So here's number 2. So we have some people answering. Wow, you guys are good. B, you already learned from what we've been doing today. That's excellent. So this one, during adolescence, the correct answer would be peers. So I'm seeing some mixed answers on this one, but it's going to be peers for adolescence. But I'll show you, if you miss one, I'll pick a school. We'll pick school. Then it'll tell you that the answer is A and a little explanation. So you can see this is how my course works. It's kind of like the preparation manual where it tells you a rationale and an explanation, right? So then number 4. This one we didn't talk about. I'll tell you how you can learn more about this. So this one is A, and the way I get some of these questions is I'll look at the ones in the free Texas NASIMC manual, and I'll change it up a little bit. So they might ask, what's the best reason to do block scheduling? And the best reason to do block scheduling is usually to allow them to take ownership of their learning and exploration of discovery. But then in the rationale, it says that shorter periods, like in regular scheduling, is better to emphasize mastery of skills. So you'll learn not only from my course, the presentation, but you'll also learn from the sample questions, which are very similar to the questions you'll see on the real test. So it'll get you ready for that. See if you guys remember, because we talked about this. Very well done. Remember, we said the con in conservation and the con in concrete. Did y'all just learn that today, or did y'all already know that? Learned it today. Good. I'm glad you're learning. Everybody's really participating. Great. Oh, some of you guys learned it from my other courses too. Excellent. And I'll scroll down a little bit so you can see everything. That's right. We talked about how they're all related, right? That's the best answer. Student-centered instruction is good, right? We know that, and it is helpful for human development, but this is the best answer because it's asking the situation. This is what they're talking about, right? So see how that's not really on topic. it's not as on topic. This one is. So you always want to look at it and see, okay, she's talking about social and emotional development, and then academics and physical fitness. So that's what the best answer choice is talking about. Good, you guys got that one too. That's right, we talked about that today. Wow, I'm really impressed. You guys are nailing these. So I want to know, did you guys find this helpful today? You can be honest. Oh, good. Good. I'm so glad. So we went over 2 competencies and we went over questions from 1 competency, right? So make sure you stick around. I'm going to get a document ready real quick. I honestly forgot to do it before today, but I'm going to get a free document together for you guys while I take questions. That way I can give you some free questions. So just bear with me 1 second while I do that. And but while I'm doing that, does anybody have any questions about what we talked about? Has anybody who's already passed their content test? Because I know some of you guys haven't, because I know some of y'all who's still working on their content test or who passed it. Yeah, so I want to let you know that I do have material for a lot of different tests for probably anything that you are taking, right? So today when I email you, I'll email you guys a link and I'll send you the links for my course. That way you can check that out if you want to. And I have courses for a lot of different subjects. So yeah, PPR, that's great. And then what else was I going to tell you guys? Yes, so be careful with those strategies like we talked about, right? And always pick the one that's most on topic first before you pick one that's learner centered, right? So I'm going to share with you guys, I'll have to email you this link later because I want to make sure that I take all of your questions and I'm not multitasking. So, so let's see, let me look in the chat box, see what people are saying. Yes, so some of you guys have passed, congratulations. Some of you guys have more to take. That's great. So I wanted to, for STR, I am planning to do an STR one. I don't know exactly when yet, but soon, within the next month or 2, for sure, I'm going to do an STR one. And I have a great CRQ, which is the constructed response question. I do have one of those ready, where I recorded somebody like they do. But for the PPR, even though, you know, some people think this test is easy, right? I've heard from plenty of people that don't pass it the first time or even the second time. So it's really important that you get a good guide that's aligned to the domains and competencies. And even better if it's written by somebody that really knows the test, right? And that's one of the benefits of working with me is I only write stuff for Texas. I do have ESL also. So if you need help with a PPR, I'm going to put my link for this and it's on sale today. for only $59. So you'll save $20 if you sign up today. And it's a great course with all of the information you need to know, the fastest way to learn it, in my opinion, at least, with lots of practice questions for each competency. So I think that could really be a game changer for you, like it was for Patricia, that had hired other tutors, bought other study guides, right? And they just weren't working for her. And some of them are good. It's not that they're bad, but they didn't work for her. So if you've tried something else, it might be time to do a new approach, right? Something that's aligned to domains and competencies with realistic questions. So that's what I would recommend. And, you know, some people don't want to pay for study material, but what I found is those are the same people that pay to retest very often, right? And that gets expensive, because if you think about it, each time you pay to take the test, it's around $117, right? So it's better to pay $60 for a really good course and pass your first time or your next time than to try to save money and do it the free way, which might not work out for you, right? Yes, so I sent the link for all of my collections, but let me get the one directly for course subjects so you can. And I wanted to tell you too, like, some of you guys might not be ready to take the PPR yet, so you don't want to buy this, but I set it up where you get access for a whole year. So you could take advantage of this discount right now, even if you're not ready to start studying. If you're going to be ready in the next year, it would make sense to go ahead and sign up. Now, if you're taking it in 2 years, then no, that wouldn't make sense. But most people are probably not going to be waiting that long to take the test. So let me see. My internet connection is giving me trouble for some reason. So for course subjects, here's the course subjects link. Some people are asking about that. And let me see what other questions. You can also unmute. Yeah, so for Karen says she's having a hard time. I really think my course could be the difference. You get access for a whole year. And I do have an ESL course too and an STR. So I'll put those, but it might be better to just do the collections one, because then you can scroll through all of them and find. But yes, I think my course has everything you need to know. I don't think you need, in fact, I don't think it's good to buy 2 or 3 different books, because then you're less likely to finish them. It's better to pick one, even if it's not mine, and finish it, as long as it's aligned to the domains and competencies, right? That's important. It has to be aligned to the domains and competencies. And then don't just go through it one time, go through it multiple times, right? So mine has videos to watch, material to read, and then questions. So you don't want to just watch the videos once. I would watch them 2 or 3 times, right? And read the material more than once. Take notes or make a Quizlet or something like that, to where you're really internalizing the information, right? And then if you want to check me out on YouTube, I do have some free videos on YouTube that you can check out for lots of different tests. So do that. Anybody have questions? You can unmute your mic or you can type them. I hope I'm answering everybody's questions in the chat. It's getting busy. Yes, core subjects is set for 3 months. I'm thinking about changing that, honestly, because I kind of like the idea of so I can be flexible on that. Core subjects is for 3 months, but I can change that, because I kind of think this is a better approach where I do it by the year. So if you enroll in the core subjects, I'll change yours to a year, and then I'll think about everybody else's. I'll think about how I'm going to do it from here on out, because most of the time I just do it for 3 months. But I thought about the PPR. A lot of you guys, I noticed, haven't taken your content test yet, right? Because I know some of y'all. So it wouldn't make sense for you to buy a PPR course if you're still working on your content. That doesn't make sense. So I thought, well, if I give it for a whole year, you could take advantage of this discount and go ahead and enroll now and just use it when you're ready, right? So there's definitely no pressure, but I thought that would be a good way for you guys to save some money and get the right course that you need. Or I think it's the right course, at least. I've heard really good feedback about it. So I think you'll really like the PPR course I have. And I'll put the link in the chat again for the PPR since that's the main one we're talking about. But yes, if you enroll in core subjects or any of them today, I'll just change your enrollment for a whole year because I want to offer that to people that you took the time to show up. A lot of people sign up for this. Like I had way more people than this signed up, but you guys are the ones that made it a priority to come. So I would be happy to extend your access. So I really commend you guys because so many people don't attend the free workshops that they sign up for, but y'all are dedicated. So any other questions? Let's see. What if you enrolled for a week or two for the content exam? Is that for core subjects? Is that Francis, I think? Let me see. I can't see what her name is. Francis. Yeah, if you want to do the LOTE, if you do the one time, I can do it for a year, the one time course, not for the weekly tutoring, of course. That's set for either weekly or 2 months. And for the PPR, I could do a whole year. Yeah, I do one-on-one tutoring. That yeah, the core subjects is not on sale today anyways. So just whenever you enroll, just remind me that you attended this and I'll give you a whole year of access. And I might just change everything to a year, honestly. Like I said, I might do that and adjust the prices a little bit, but you can do it while I still have the prices like this. And I won't change the prices in the next couple of days, like till the 3rd. So the only price that will change is the PPR that's on sale today. That's the only one that's gonna go up in the next, tomorrow it'll go back to its normal price. But yes, you could sign up this weekend. I do some private tutoring, absolutely, for lots of different tests. So let me get you the link for my private tutoring. And I do group tutoring for the LOTE and BTLPT. So if you need help with the LOTE or BTLPT, then that's a different link. But you can just call me or text me if you need help with the BTLPT or LOTE, because I have group tutoring for that. But it's actually in the collections link. And sometimes I do, workshops for different tests. Like I just did ESL recently, and then I'm planning to do STR soon. So yes, but so group tutoring is really affordable. If you do the LOT or BTLPT, it's $39 a week, and that's a great value because you also get feedback on all of your assignments and everything, and then weekly support. And then private tutoring is $99. So that one's more because my time is super limited right now, and I'm also going to give you a lot of value, guys. Like the private tutoring, you're going to get a lot out of that if you book. So would I do group for STR? I could try to do a group session for the STR. Like I probably wouldn't do weekly. Maybe I would do a workshop for the PPR or the STR. If I get enough people, like I could send out an email and see if people want to do. I've done PPR tutoring before for like 2 hours where we cover, or 2.5 hours where we cover all the domains and competencies. So if I get enough people that want to do that, I could do that. And that would be around like $59 or something like that for the PPR because it'd be 2 hours. So if I get enough people that want to do that, and STR would probably be around the same. That one might take a little longer because I think my STR material has more than 59 for 2 hours. And I usually go over a little bit. I try to respect your time, but I also try to give you the most value. And then STR might be a little bit longer, so that might be a little bit more. But yeah, so some of you guys do want PPR tutoring. I'll try to book that soon because I know some of you guys are taking your test soon. But I'm super excited. So tonight I'll send you the links that I've been putting in the chat box. That way, in case you missed them and you want to sign up, you can. But I definitely still have a little bit more time if anybody has more questions. Great. Well, you guys, thank you so much, like I said, for coming. I love what I do. I love helping people pass. And
Courtney, I have a question.
yes, ma'am.
How is your program different than 240 tutoring? Because
Oh,
I'm with
sure.
240 tutoring.
240 tutoring is awesome. I bought it and I have good things to say about it. But what I've consistently heard from people and what I thought too when I logged on is it's a ton of information. It's more than you really need to know to pass. So it makes it hard to finish it, right? So it's really good. It's really good, especially if you're struggling a lot. Like maybe you took it and you had a 180 or something and you need a lot of intense help. But for most people, it's overwhelming and it's overload, you know? So mine is more concise, to the point, and very closely aligned to the Texas exams, because 240 is they're national, right? Which is a good thing. I mean, that's great for them. And maybe one day I'll expand to other states. I've looked at it, but I'm only going to do it if I've taken the tests. But a lot of these companies, they hire people that are content experts, which is great, right? But they haven't taken the test. So they give you really good information, but it's not super similar to what you're going to see on the test. So it's not wrong. It's just some stuff you don't need to know or a little bit different, right? So that's what happened to me. Like when I bought, I took the special ed test several months ago, and I bought a book by Mometrics, and it had really good information in it about special education. I don't think it was wrong, but I noticed that it wasn't that close to the competencies. Like I'd read the competencies and then I'd read what they had in there, and it wasn't closely aligned. And I thought, that's not going to help me if it's not aligned to the competencies. So I didn't use it. But they get good reviews for a lot of tests. So I'm not saying that about all of their programs, but that's what I found for special ed. That's my personal review. But yes, but lots of people have told me that they prefer mine over 240, even though 240, they sell way more than I do, right? Because they come up first on Google, right? But a lot of people have told me that they tried that first and weren't able to get through it, and then they use mine and pass. So I do think mine works better for most people, but I do think there are some people that might need all of that extra that 240 offers. But most people get overwhelmed and can't finish it, and then it doesn't help them because they couldn't even finish it.
Courtney, what do you think about certified teacher?
I've never bought that one, but I've also heard that that one can be very overwhelming. But they get good reviews, and so does 240. So I don't think you can go wrong. Like if you already have it and you can get yourself to do it, then that's fine, you know. But they're also, a big company, so sometimes their experts don't always take the test that you guys take. That can be a problem. But I don't know about certified teacher, because maybe I should buy their program too, and that way I could give you a personal review. But 240, I like their plan to pass. They give you a plan to pass at the beginning, and I think that's a really cool feature. So I definitely not here to, say that any program is bad, but some are better than others, that's for sure.
I'm going to jump in and sing praises for you, Courtney, because you won't.
Thank you.
I have tried everything. If you are sitting on the fence and thinking about doing this, I bought every single program and they didn't work. So don't waste your money. I'm telling you, she's the best at what she does. She breaks it down for you. She helps you. She's much more attainable. She's a person who is there for you. You can text her, you can call her, you can do emails, whatever it is that works for you. She works with you in every way. So if you're on the fence, just think about it. I bought all of them. I bought certified teacher. I bought 240. None of them worked. I'm into this for the long haul, and she's the only one that really works. So I have done all of it, and I'll save you the mistakes of buying them. They
Thank
work,
you
they're
so much,
okay, but
Kathy.
it's too much. Courtney has a way of breaking down the information, and she's super gifted at being able to break it down and make it relatable. Those other courses are like so high up that it's so hard to understand them, and it doesn't make it relatable. So there's my praises. Thanks about what you're doing. It's worth every dime.
Thank you so much, Kathy, and Bianca too. It means so much to me. And somebody else also was recommending me, and I'm sorry I didn't see the name that used it for the content. But I want to tell you how much I appreciate you guys, because you are the reason I get to do what I love to do. I love this. I did teach before, right? I have taught, but it didn't work for my lifestyle because I was a military wife for 20 years and we would move every 2 years. Well, it's really hard to get a teaching job every 2 years in a new state or a new country because we didn't always live in the United States either. So when I was able to start this business and do what I love, it just means the world to me. So I thank you. I've never really even heard of Learning Liaison, honestly. Yeah, I don't know. Has anybody else bought that? I've never even heard of Learning Liaison.
I work Texas Teachers, and it's just a program that they recommend for students who are struggling, but I've never personally used it.
Yeah, it might be good. Really, like I said, a lot of them are good, but they're too much information.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's how I feel about the learning liaison. That's what I was asking. Like, I mean, I guess the way that you told us to answer the question is a little bit more on topic, and it's like much, I don't know. I was just like, I think I've done too many of them, just like what Katie has said. And I am so confused and I'm already so tired of I really just want to pass this test.
Yes, I think you'll find mine very refreshing. I have to say my core subjects has quite a bit of content because it's 5 subjects, right? But it's still way less than a lot of other programs that overwhelm you with stuff that you don't need to know. Like I said, it's all good information, but you don't really need to know it to pass. Kind of like core subjects, I put world history on my guide, but I put it in there that you're probably not going to see very many questions on world history. So I would just kind of skim through that part. I wouldn't really study that thoroughly, because what you're going to see more is US history and Texas history. And that's what I hear from everybody. That's what happened when I took it, and everybody tells me the same thing. So I save you time. Yes, you can use that email that you got the Zoom link. I have 2 email addresses and I check both of them every day. Sometimes I don't reply the same day. I try, but it depends on, my kids and everything else. But at least within 48 hours, and usually the same day I'll reply. But and then you guys can also call me or text me. Let me put my phone number in the chat box too. And you should know on Facebook, it's not always me posting stuff. I have a manager that helps me. His name's Joanne, and he's awesome. He knows so much about my business, and I just got to the point where I couldn't do it. So I hired somebody to help me. But I do the tutoring, and I do a lot of the more operational stuff, but he does the social media stuff for me. And sometimes he even sends out emails. Sometimes it'll be him emailing, but usually it'd be him sending out like a mass email, not replying to your personal emails. That would be me, because I'm the one that can best answer your questions. But he's better at staying on top of the daily stuff that I can't handle. But I'm excited for you guys. So one thing I like to tell everybody in every session is to put up your passing score everywhere, right? Your 260 or your 270, believe it, see it in advance, thank God in advance if you're spiritual, right? And practice your gratitude before you even get the blessing. Already be thankful for it. And that's very powerful. I do that all the time. And I'm very blessed. Sometimes things don't work out the way that I want, but I can understand that there's a greater reason for it, right? But I'm excited. Any other questions or comments?
Yes, if you have time, would you look at my scores?
Oh, yes, please email me your score report and I'll tell you exactly what I recommend, because especially if you score, like, if you need more than 20 points, then you need a lot of time to study. And I'll tell you, okay, don't try to take the test again in 2 or 3 weeks. If you need 40 points, that's going to take time, right? Yes. That's right. You're going to reach your 240 or higher with gratitude. That's right. We want to aim high, like put up a 250, 260, 270. The last test I took, I was writing down 290. I was really aiming high. And then if you fall a little short, you still did really well, So, but yes, feel free to send me your score report. And some people try to text me their score reports. I can't usually see those that well on my phone. So it'd be better to email it to me. But thank you guys so much. And last time I did this, I didn't send out the recording because I wanted it to be for the people that actually took the time to come. But I had so many people even that came saying, I want the recording, right? To be able to go back and look at it again, that I'll send out the recording because I want you to be able to review what we talked about. But is there anything else I could help you guys with?
Would you put your email in
Sure.
chat?
Yes, I sure will. Oh, thank you guys. Again, I just appreciate all of y'all. Oh yes, thank you for Bianca. You're awesome. Bianca, I really owe you one. If you use Afterpay or Klarna, you can do payment plans, right? And some of them are even interest free. Like they offer 4 months interest free or 12 months with interest. So that can make it a lot more accessible if it's not in your budget today. So thank you so much for pointing that out. Yeah, select Affirm or Klarna or Afterpay. Yes, I will be sending sample questions. I'll email them because I've got to make the file. I was trying to do it while I could put it in the chat box, but I wasn't able to do that and keep up with the questions, but I'll email it tonight. And then, but you guys are just great. So I know y'all are going to make a difference and I appreciate each and every one of you. So thank you. Yes. And a special thanks to Kathy and Bianca and everybody else recommending me. And please forgive me if I didn't catch your name in the chat box. That I really appreciate it. But I will see you guys next time, hopefully. Thank you.